And officially welcome everybody. Welcome our newcomers right now. For those of you who have not met me yet or have not seen me yet, my name is Shannon. I'm the executive director of WVA, and I believe this is our third installation of professional practices. There's going to be one more this year, and I think I still need ideas. So if anyone is wondering how to do something kind of in the world of being a professional artist, you let me know what you want to hear, because I'm still thinking about that last one. But today we're going to be talking about artist statements. I'm coming at this from the perspective of having been an artist who has I got my undergraduate degree, graduate degree, so I had a lot of different teachers give me their perspective on artist statements. I've written a lot of iterations myself, but also from the perspective of a curator. I have read hundreds and hundreds of artist statements. So I've seen the whole gamut. I've seen short ones, long ones, good ones, bad ones. So kind of coming at it from that perspective of, okay, here's my advice. Here's a good kind of baseline for getting you started or for sharpening yours up if you're not feeling super confident. So let me share my screen here. Okay. Let's pull this up. Okay, can everyone see the first slide in the slideshow? After I told you guys to mute yourselves. Okay. So, the first thing I want to start with is kind of delineating the difference between bios and artist statements, especially for beginners out there. I know it can kind of be confusing on what kind of information belongs in one or the other. So, I wanted to put it here side by side to give you a good reference point for when you might forget or you need to kind of look it up and think to yourself, oh, which one should that go on? So, at the basis of it all, a bio is all about you as a person, and an artist statement is about your art. Now, naturally, there is a little bit of overlap. There's some gray areas here, but overall, for your bio, that's where you're going to talk about your background. If you want to talk about, where you grew up or, how you got started in art in childhood, that's a great place to do that. If you want to talk about, education, training, any significant, teachers you had in your life, great place for that is your bio. And also accomplishments. So you can almost think of a bio as sort of this miniature version of your resume or CV in a way. So you wouldn't want to list all of your accomplishments, everything that you've done. Of course, nobody wants to read that written out, but maybe pick your top couple that you're proud of. I won XYZ award, or I had a solo exhibition at this great gallery, that kind of thing. And then most typically, you are going to be writing that in third person. If you haven't done this before, it can feel a little bit uncomfortable for the first time writing about yourself as if you are not you, but that is indeed the convention. So I just wanted to share that with you. An artist statement, by contrast, though, you're not going to talk about all of that background information so much. Again, there might be a little bit of bleed into it because there is no art without the you in it, right? But you're going to try to focus on the art objects first and foremost. So, why do you make art? Talk about your process. What is your art about? What are your goals in making art and sharing art? And then the other thing, it is most typically written in first person. So you feel free to do the I make art. This is what I do. So we're going to unpack this in a little bit more detail. But first, when do you need an artist statement? So as WVA members, you've come across it already. We've asked you for it time and time again, right? For the member catalog, for example. Or if you are writing an exhibition proposal or you want to be part of a group exhibition, more likely than not, they've asked you for an artist statement. And grants and residencies too. If even if you haven't applied for a grant or a residency, maybe you're interested and you don't know where to begin. If you don't already have an artist statement, you're going to want to have that on hand, especially if you have some deadlines that you're going to need to adhere to. So basically, when are you going to need it? You'll know. They're going to ask you for it. And the other main place that you're going to use your artist statement is your website if you don't have one already. More likely than not, you're going to have, an about section, a bio tab, something like that. So often the bio, of course, and the artist statement will be on the same page near each other. They often come together. Or artist statements can often be on the tabs on your website where you're showing your artwork too, so that the viewer can have the context that they need as they're viewing it. And a third thing I have on here too is genuinely, it is just a good exercise. Even if you don't have a specific reason, a specific entity that's asking for an artist statement, even if you don't have a website, it is genuinely just a good practice for you to get into. It gets you thinking about your art, gets you writing about your art, and sometimes it can spark new ideas or help you kind of create a grounding theme, an easy way to talk about your art. Because in many ways, when someone asks you about your art, on the spot in a gallery or something, what you are saying to them is very similar to what you would be writing in an artist statement. Okay, how should it look? So the basics of just formatting. This is difficult for me to give you an exact number for some of these things, but this is kind of a broad guideline. I would say about 150 to 300 words. Have I seen them shorter than that? Have I seen them longer than that? Yes, but if you need somewhere to start, somewhere to aim, especially if it's your first time, that's the about the length that you're most likely it's most likely going to be useful for you. I also have on here 1 to 3 paragraphs. That's another thing where there's not exact rules, but again, just kind of a guideline for those of you who are unsure. If it feels natural to you to have it, in one concise paragraph, great. That's absolutely fine as long as it's not a big run on thought, or breaking it up into a few paragraphs is also fine. If you're looking at, a page worth of words, I would not want to ever see it longer than that. If you are exceeding a page, it's too long. On the other side of that too, there's absolutely such thing as it being too short. I've come across artist statements that are like 1 sentence, 2 sentences. And sometimes they're kind of, they often will make me smile. They're usually cheeky ones. However, I would call that more of an elevator pitch. So you guys might be familiar with that concept. Certainly not unique to, the art world. It's often used in like the business world. The idea is if you were to step into the elevator with someone who you want to explain your artwork to in as much time as it takes from one floor to the next floor, how can you do it in the shortest and yet most efficient way possible? That's your 1 to 2 sentence. Artist statement, by contrast, should be a little bit lengthier than that. It should go a little bit more in depth. And again, first person, we talked about that. Okay, what should it say? Let's get to the meat and potatoes of this. So, like we said, it's about your art itself. Now, it could be about your art practice as a whole, so everything that you've ever done, or it could be about a specific series that stands apart from some of the other work you do, or even a specific project, installation, artwork. It really depends what the context is that you're using it for. So, for example, if we're on your website and you have a specific page or specific tab for a series, maybe you have a series that is very specifically about, I don't know, a mountain range that you visited. And you might want to create an artist statement that is about that specific mountain series. Similarly, you might be applying to have an exhibition at a gallery and you're applying with usually a very specific artwork or a specific series in mind. Maybe you're applying for a solo exhibition. If you provide an artist statement that is about all of your artwork and it may be it might confuse the curator or the reader if it doesn't seem like it's about what they're looking at. So that's all just to say, tweak it. You can write some different versions depending on what you're using it for. But what it all boils down to, the content is what, why, and how. What is your artwork? Why are you making it? How are you making it? So now I'm going to go into even deeper detail with those. Help outline some good questions that you can ask yourself as you parse this all out. So the what, this is the easiest for you to figure out the answer to. As the artist, you know best what you're doing. So what medium? Are you an oil painter? Anyone who's not muted, could you please mute? I hear an echo on my end. Yeah, it would be greatly appreciated. Oh, actually, I think I can manually do it. 1 second. Okay, manual muting, haha. Okay, so what is your artwork? What medium? And formal analysis. So describe what we're looking at, because they may not have a visual in front of them, right? What form does it take? What does it look like? Again, these are all very simple questions. And very concisely, what is it about? What's the subject? And concise really is kind of a through line here. Sometimes it's hard to talk about our artwork at all, but often as artists, once we start talking about it, it's hard to stop, and we go on and on. But like I said, we're aiming for 150 to 300 words approximately. So efficiency is key. You don't want to go crazy, crazy into depth. Okay, so the what is easy. Usually just, a couple sentences is all that's necessary for the what. The why is where it gets a little bit more interesting. So I broke the why down into these 4 bullet points to help get you thinking about how to answer that question. Because it's seemingly a simple question, right? Why am I making this artwork? Well, sometimes the simplest questions can be the hardest to answer in a meaningful way, especially for someone who's outside of the artwork. So hopefully you find these helpful. And depending on the type of artwork that you do, not all of these might be really relevant or easy for you to answer. Maybe 2 out of these 4 really will get you going, maybe all 4. So don't feel bad if some of these don't feel relevant to your practice. That's okay. This is really just something to help spark you and get you going on what are some great ways to explain why. So first, what reactions or conclusions do you want your artist to have? In other words, when you're showing this artwork to the viewer in the gallery, to the curator, to someone visiting your website, what are you hoping they get out of it? It could be an emotional response that you're trying to elicit. It could be a thought process. You might want to get them thinking about something. It might be about the experience that you want them to have. So ask yourself that, is there a specific thing that you want them to experience? And it may not be specific to. It could just be, a joy. It could be a feeling. So again, don't feel like you have to get really existential about it. Just be very honest and straightforward with what you feel about your own artwork. Second, what questions do you hope to answer with your artwork? This might be one of those that it may be very straightforward for you or maybe not. So let me give you some examples for this. Perhaps you are an artist who is very conceptual with their artwork. Perhaps your artwork is very political. That's a very straightforward example for this. You're questioning, what's happening in Washington, D.C. You're questioning what's happening with human rights. You are questioning what we do about climate change, for example. So those are the types of questions that you might be scratching the surface of with conceptual or political artwork. Well, you might be asking, okay, no, well, I do landscapes, I do realistic painting. So I'm not trying to answer any, certain questions like that. Well, that doesn't necessarily mean you're not trying to approach any questions at all. It could be something a little bit more broad. For example, where can we find beauty in the smallest places? Where can we find beauty and intrigue in some of the most everyday places? So it could be something as simple as that. And by getting, thinking about your artwork in that way, you start to not just think about making it for yourself, but again, you're thinking about the viewer experience and what they might be asking about it, what conclusions they may be drawing, and you're creating kind of a back and forth conversation or discourse. You are answering the why. Another thing you might want to talk about is what influences or inspirations that you have. So, maybe you are influenced by artwork from another artist, or perhaps you're a big fan of a certain movement like Impressionism. It is absolutely a great time to interject that kind of thing because it gives the viewer, the reader, a good amount of context again for why. Why does your artwork look the way that it does? Why are you creating or painting this certain subject? Why are you sculpting this certain subject? What kind of things are inspiring you? These are the exact types of things that the viewer, the reader wants to know. It's how we can connect with you on a different level with your art beyond just the visual, assuming that it's visual artwork. And the last thing that I have on here is another deceivingly simple one. What makes your artwork unique? Well, we all think our artwork is unique, but when we write about it, sometimes it's actually pretty hard to convey that into words. So, what I mean is, when you are describing your artwork visually or why you make it, try to think of descriptors, explanations that are personal to you, things that really convey what makes your artwork yours. So, a good exercise is if you were to take out some of those sentences that you have, give it to someone else to read and not tell them what artist or what artwork they are reading about. If they were shown artwork from, I don't know, a couple different artists, can they read those sentences and figure out which artist it's talking about? If not, you might be a little bit too vague, a little bit too general about how you're describing it. So try to think about what makes your artwork unique. If you are, a painter of landscapes, again, that's a nice, easy example. What makes your landscape stand out from this person's landscapes? Is it your style? Is it the inspiration? Is it what you're trying to convey, emotionally? Start thinking about those sorts of things. Any questions so far? So I know that was a lot of blah, blah, blabbing. Okay. And then the last, so the what, the why, the last of those three things is the how. This is one where you may or may not actually use this in your artist statement. It depends. So the how is, how are you making it? What is your process? If it is unique, notable in any sort of way, in your opinion, absolutely talk about it. It may not be the case for you. So, me as a painter, there's nothing particularly different maybe about my process. I sit in the studio and I paint what I see. That's okay. You don't have to talk about that. But maybe there is something unique about the way that you do it. Maybe you have a different technique. Maybe your studio setting is unique and it somehow feeds into the artwork you're making and why you're making it. So ask yourself that question too. Is your process, is your technique, is it significant to the end product? Is it significant to the viewer's understanding of your artwork? It is okay if the answer is no. If that's the case, you can leave the how out. The why is really where the bulk of it is. It's some of the most difficult stuff to parse out if you're not used to really talking about your artwork in great depth. But again, if you have trouble, go back to those bullet points, ask yourself those questions, and see what kind of ideas come out of it. Okay. I slipped this one in because you guys, this day and age, I think I have to start talking about AI. I've wanted to avoid it for a long time, but I had the realization today that it is interjecting itself into our lives, whether we are the type who accept it or we are the type that avoid it. It's starting to be everywhere. So I made the decision to have at least one slide talking about it. So perhaps you're someone out there wondering, can I just ask AI to write this for me? Well, yes and no. Also, my answer to that is a little opinion based, but also a little bit based in professionalism. So, my quick answer is don't use it entirely to write the whole thing. There's a lot of reasons for that, but one is it's noticeable. The same way when you look at AI generated images, especially as artists, I bet you guys can agree it's immediately noticeable when it's AI, right? There's something uncanny about it, there's something unnatural about it. So my recommendation, my ask of you just as a personal person, Shannon, don't use it to write the entire thing. However, there's a caveat to that. I actually recognize that it can be a very helpful tool. If you are someone who's not good at writing, if you're someone who has a hard time getting started writing, if it's intimidating to start outlining it, AI can actually be a pretty good tool just to get those juices flowing, to start giving you ideas, a starting point. So I'm going to give AI a little bit of grace today and say it can be useful in that way. So you can be very exact in your input if you wanted, like, okay, here's all the things that I want you to touch on, here's the tone that I want you to use. However, here's another one of my personal asks of you. If you do this, what I would love for you to do, read it, take the points that you think are good, they're getting at the kind of thing that you want to convey, read those, go over to wherever you're writing your artist statement and just rewrite it in your own words. So it can be that starting point, it can be that little spark that you need to get going, but I'm just personally asking of you, take that, write it in your own words. And sometimes that's all you need to get flowing, and you might not even look at that again. So that's all I'm going to say about that, other than at the end of the day, as creatives, you know your artwork better than anybody. So if you were to put all of your eggs in AI's basket and ask it to explain your artwork for you, it's a computer. It can't explain it the same way that you can. And you put so much time and love and dedication into your artwork, it deserves a better explanation than what a computer can give. So that's my little soapbox AI moment. Take it or leave it. The first time I've ever interjected AI into any sort of class or lecture or anything. Okay, a couple other things to keep in mind that you might want to avoid. So, the first thing I have here is don't try to sound like anyone other than yourself. So, what I'm talking about here, a lot of students, especially since they're surrounded with academia, they're reading all of these dense academic texts, they often are susceptible to this, where they want to interject a lot of that into their artist statement, so much so that it stops sounding like them as a unique individual. A lot of art jargon. Now, I'm not saying you can't use it at all. Absolutely, you can use whatever is genuinely relevant to you. So think about, if you're using a lot of, academic terms, if you're getting very flowery with it, ask yourself, if someone was asking you to describe your artwork, the way that you're writing it, would you say it that same way? Or are you writing it differently than how you speak? That would be my advice there. So to kind of ground yourself and make it still you and kind of keep yourself in check, making sure you're not trying to push it somewhere where it doesn't need to be. Ask yourself if it's the way that you talk, because you really want an artist statement to sound like your voice. That's why it's written in first person. It's meant to be uniquely you, coming from you, the artist, explaining your artwork. Similar concept with theory. Any of you who are into reading critical theory as it relates to artwork, it absolutely can be a great thing to talk about in your artist statement, especially if you have a deeply conceptual art practice. But don't do it just for the sake of, trying to sound academic or trying to make it, sound professional. Make sure that theory that you're talking about is something that is genuinely important to you, something that feels relevant every day that you sit down in your studio, something that's on your mind as you're making artwork. So this is me just trying to, give you some reminders, some things that you can ask yourself to make sure that your personal voice is coming through appropriately. The last thing I have on here for things to avoid is not updating it or reworking it. Sometimes we fall into the habit of writing an artist statement and then we're done. We just let it sit and we don't look at that thing ever again. And I get it, because sometimes those of us who don't love writing them, we don't want to rework it again. However, it's really good practice to check in every so often. It doesn't have to be really often. Reread it, see if it's still relevant to your art practice, because inevitably after time we change, our minds change, what we're making changes. So just check in every so often, and even rereading it after some time too, it can sometimes you catch things and you might want to change just the way that it sounds. But in addition to that, you might want to go back and rework it occasionally for different contexts. So what I'm talking about is you might want to have some different versions. Let's say, for example, you have an artist statement that's on your website. And maybe you are an artist, you're a person who's kind of casual, you're a little bit silly, you're a jokester. Maybe your artwork is kind of, light and goofy like that too. And you wrote an artist statement that's, sounds like uniquely you. It's goofy, it's lighthearted, but maybe you need an artist statement for a really prestigious grant for $100,000. You're up against tens of thousands of other artists. That might be one of the moments where you think about tone changes, tweaking things just a little bit, depending on the context where you're going to use the artist statement. Not trying to tell you to tone down your silliness too much, but sometimes it's a good idea if you want to put yourself on the best path for your end goal. Okay. So I've given you a lot of bullet points, right? I've given you a lot of things to think about, a lot of questions to ask yourself. I know there might be some of you out there that are like, this is just as intimidating as it was, and I don't know where the heck to start. This is a lot. So I have some methods for you if you're one of those people. So first, if you have a friend, if you have someone you can work with, this can be extremely helpful. So it could be, a family member, friend, colleague, fellow artist, someone that you're comfortable with. See if they can come over and interview you, so to speak. Meant to be very casual, someone you can be natural with. You can, use the bullet points given today. You can use maybe your own set of questions and have them ask those, and you verbally answer just how you would talk to that friend normally. And you can ask them to write those down, or you can record that conversation, because sometimes speaking about our artwork, um, talking to a friend, kind of naturally like that, sometimes it's easier to get those thoughts out than writing it down. It kind of depends. We all have different brains, right? We all have different ways of working. So if you're one of those people that just has a hard time writing down exactly what you mean, this might work for you. And if you prefer not to work with someone else, there's a lot of things you can do on your own as well. So I have three different methods here. Again, it kind of what you're drawn to is going to depend on the type of person you are, the type of learner, the type of personality, etc. So the first thing you could try is free writing. So you might be familiar with that, where you sit down and what you do, you put pencil to paper, and without thinking too much about what you're writing, you just start writing. Could be words, might not be full thoughts, might not be full sentences. You just write, 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 and you keep going. But what you can have in the back of your mind is those questions you want to answer. My artwork. What is my artwork? Why am I making it? Again, free writing would not be complete sentences. Just write without thinking. And if you force yourself to do that long enough, you might want to have multiple pieces of paper out. If you go back at the end and look at it, you might find some interesting concepts or themes that you didn't think of before. So it's just kind of a good, almost like subconscious brain exercise. That one doesn't work for me so much, but I know a lot of people that do enjoy that. Lists, however, I'm a list gal. So I like when I have just kind of this piece of paper with lines and just a list of bullet points that I can fill in. It's a way for me to just put down these short little bursts of thoughts, or just these small words, just again to start getting the thoughts out, to help this process start. So again, it could just be single words to describe your artwork visually. Then you can move on to some of those why bullet points that we talked about. Any, concepts. Why am I doing it? Why am I doing it for myself? What kind of things do I want the viewers to get out of it? But again, it's not meant to be full sentences, but just word after word. Just make a list and see what comes out of it. And maybe it won't be helpful in the end, but sometimes you can find those connections. You can find those patterns that all of a sudden you realize, oh, yeah, okay, I mentioned something in this category 4 times. Okay, clearly that's a through line in my artwork, and I need to put that into the artist statement. The last thing, these are all like kind of 3 different versions of the same sort of exercise, is mind mapping. So this is one where again you'll put like individual words or concepts, it could be a sentence, all over a page. Large pieces of paper, if you have like an 18 by 24 piece of paper, are really great for this. And you kind of just put them all over. Again, keep some of those questions in the back of your mind, those bullet points, the whys, the hows, the whats. And what you do afterwards, you can kind of put them in bubbles, you can draw little clouds or shapes around them. You try to find connections, things that you can connect to each other. So you could just start with one of those words. Okay, this one's nature. All right, of all the other things that I pulled out of my brain without thinking too hard, where can I draw, like literally draw a line? Which ones does it connect to? And if you keep drawing those lines, you'll see these interesting patterns emerge. And what that'll help you do is maybe you'll get 3 big through lines, like 3 bucket categories that seem to be a pattern in all the different words that you came up with. And then you kind of ask yourself, okay, those are 3 important ideas that I'm going to want to convey in my artist statement. So again, this is a starter just to get the brain moving. If you have a hard time getting those words on paper, starting at looking at that blank page. And then finally, we kind of talked about this again. Come back to it. When you're done, you're not done. Give it a little bit of time, days, maybe even longer. Come back and read it again with fresh eyes. You'll notice some different things. Maybe you want to tweak some things. It really does make a difference. Another thing that I would love for you to try is read it out loud. It might sound stupid, but the way that we read things silently with our eyes sound different than the way that it comes out of our mouths when we talk. And remember how I was, talking about, you want it to feel natural. You want it to sound like you, like the artist's voice. Well, when you read it out loud, the artist statement that you've created, if it feels awkward, if it doesn't have the right flow, if it doesn't sound like you, well, that gives you, the tools to know, okay, I need to go in and change something just a little bit. This isn't sounding quite right. And of course, as always, with anything that we write down, if you have someone to give you feedback, that can go a long way too. Keep in mind, don't get too attached. If they're going to give you constructive feedback, stay open to it. That outside perspective can be really, really helpful for building on it and creating the best statement that you can. But it could be someone outside of the art world, just a friend, a family member, could be a fellow artist, folks in WVA. That's exactly the purpose of this type of organization, for that kind of collaboration with different artists and different brains. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is considering making different versions. Well, gosh, Shannon, you already gave us enough work. Gosh, how much more? Well, there's a reason for that. So remember when we were talking about length, I gave you a pretty decent sized gap in, 100 words up to 300 words. Depending on what you're using it for, a lot of times the entity, maybe it's WVA, maybe it's a gallery, they're going to be specific. They're going to say, I would like an artist statement that's 250 words or less. So the reason I'm bringing this up is it's often a good practice. It'll save you some time in the future if you have two versions, a short version and a longer version. So short version, I would say 100 to 150 words. And then maybe your longer version is 250 to 300, something like that. And it may not seem like a big deal to have, your main artist statement, and you need to, cut it down for that specific purpose, the whatever it is that's asking for a shorter one. But number one, you might be under a tough deadline. Number two, going from long to shorter is deceptively difficult, because you're trying to describe, an entire art practice or all the ideas behind an artwork or a series of artwork. Condensing it down even shorter, sometimes it's difficult to convey all the things that you want to convey in just a few sentences. So my advice is give yourself a little bit of time to think about that and make one of those short, efficient artist statements, and just always have those two versions at the ready, because it'll give you the time to think about it, but you'll thank yourself in the future when all of a sudden you need one on the fly. Okay, that I told you it was gonna be a short and sweet one. That is all I have for you today. Does anybody have any questions about anything we went over? Any questions that I did not touch on? Anything about, your artist statements that you have questions about, you're not sure about?
All's good.
All good.
I
Oh, I
was
said 40 minutes is exactly 40 minutes.
I was challenged a month ago when I um, applied. Right, I submitted a piece for jury at the Chippewa Valley um, Artists something or other collective, and they said limit the artist statement to 50 words or less.
Oh, 50 stuff. Did you struggled with that?
I
Yeah.
did, and ended up writing a poem, a prose
Oh.
poem that dealt directly with the piece I was submitting. The theme was arrivals and departures.
Oh my goodness. 50 is tough. Like that's a very
And,
fast glimpse into explaining artwork. But I like your
well,
unique take on it.
I'll see if I can share it. Let's see. Go ahead and talk amongst yourselves. Let's
Anybody else have any questions or thoughts?
see.
I have a question. Am I in here? I have a question
Yeah.
about how it should look. How should the statement look? Should you have a heading on it? Is that
It kind of depends on the context of what you're submitting it to, but usually I recommend just very, very simple. As far as like if you want to get down to the real basics, like font, I always recommend, if you want to be professional, just keep very basic fonts. None of these like fancy, scripts or Comic Sans, nothing like that. So keep it professional. In terms of heading, I usually recommend very, very simple, like just saying artist statement and then the artist name.
Okay.
So like it's going to look kind of bare and simple, but that's really all that it requires.
So, and I'm finding like 125 words is sort of like lately the thing. How big should the font be?
I would say between 10 and 12 is kind of normal. 11
Oh,
or 12. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. A lot of times, like I keep saying entities, whatever it is that's asking for it, sometimes they'll give you those exact guidelines, but when it's not there, I would say that's about right. So 1 to 3 paragraphs, never more than a page, 12-point font at most. Yeah. Very simple headings, just kind of straight and to the point.
Great.
And I'm not sure how to share a screen in Zoom, but
Oh, you know what? I probably have to stop sharing first. I forgot to do that. And then I might have to give you permission. 1 second. Okay, I'm gonna make you co-host.
Shares at the bottom, Robert. Right next to React Chat more.
Little, yeah, rectangle with an up arrow.
oh, here we go. There we go. Okay.
So this is your poem one, the poem take?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I don't know where. Oh, there we go. And maximize. There we go. So it's exactly 50 words. And they accepted it.
Oh, wow.
So
very poignant.
Thank you. Yeah, I had photographed the mother as a model for several years, and was aware of her situation. And I was the third person she told when the test came back positive, little home test. I think her husband, her mother, and then me. And then I followed her every 6 weeks. She drove down to Mequon from Ripon every 6 weeks. And I followed her through each stage.
Mm. Oh,
Where's
wow.
the show? Where's the show? What is the show?
It's at the Heidi Center for the Arts in Chippewa Falls. And it is sponsored by the Chippewa Valley Artists something. CVAC, I think, Artists Collective, I think. There was I heard about it through our Southeastern chapter here. I'm pretty sure I did, yeah. So I applied. You could submit up to 4. And I looked through my body of work. They wanted something that was completed in the last 2 or 3 years. And I could only find one thing that qualified. So, so there are 60 pieces of art that will be on display through the 20th of August.
Nice.
So anyway, that's my story. The sunshine is going directly on the.
You have the most beautiful setting of all of us, I have to say. My goodness, what a gazebo!
Well, the shades are drawn there to prevent the others. See, where's my wife? There she is. And then
dirty dishes.
Yeah, our dirty dishes. So yeah, we don't vacation in the summertime. It's just we stay here. It's just we don't want to.
It's beautiful, sun shining in there.
Is that the lake behind you? Is that Lake Michigan behind you?
No, Lake Michigan is that way. The Milwaukee River is behind us.
Ah, nice.
Well, there's about 150 yards of yucky, muddy marsh between us, but
Wilderness.
wilderness. Yeah.
That's protective plantation.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's very private. So I actually started doing some model shoots during the summertime. And yeah, nobody can see. So it's fun.
Yeah, that's nice.
If you ever want to have a chapter meeting here in the summertime, let me know. We got a heated pool in the backyard.
Ooh.
So,
Okay.
okay, you're welcome. Come on over. No, I mean it. I mean, we could certainly have as many people as there are in this this Zoom.
Oh, the states,
So-
aren't they?
No, yeah. Is this all over the state or the Southeastern chapter? I think this.
Yeah, you should really discuss that with your partner before you.
Oh, she's pretty.
Oh,
She's
Fair
pretty
point.
easygoing.
fair point.
No, she does keep the calendar, the official calendar. So I would have to get permission. And then if it rains, God forbid, you'd have to be inside, and that would not be good. Because we're both artists in our own right, and so you can just picture what the house looks like. Yes, you can see the floor usually,
Yes, you can.
but well, then the living room, it's got some issues, I think, but and not enough wall space for my artwork. So it goes. This is a wonderful presentation. Words do not come easy to me, and that's why I kind of defaulted / cheated to prose poetry, especially when such a tight limit is given.
That's tough. I mean, what is that? 4 sentences maximum. I get it. That's tough. I like your unique take.
But in prose, you can get like 6 sentences in there because you can drop some verbs, you can drop some whatever. It's yeah.
I like
So
that.
we'll go out there.
I thought it was lovely. I thought it seemed like part of the artwork. It's really pretty nice.
Yeah, I agree.
It's I combined the two in a composite just so people could see what's going on. But it's
The portrait was part of the picture.
they wanted a statement to go with the photo.
Yeah, but
And it is printed and like on a 4x6 card and placed right next to the picture.
Oh, that's perfect.
So yeah, we'll see. Just one of 60, and we're going to go out there for the artists what do you call it, gathering reception. Thank you. Is on the last day, which unfortunately coincides with the artist reception for the Cedarburg Artists Guild annual juried exhibit.
Mm-hmm.
So we will go out west to Chippewa Falls. So we'll see. I mean, we'll make it into a short weekend trip. Stay a couple of nights and see what that's about.
Karen, are you in that show, the Artist Guild show?
The Cedarburg Artists Guild annual juried exhibition.
Mm-hmm.
I am. I'm also the co-chair for it.
Are
Ooh, oops.
you? I'm excited.
I meant maybe I will go to the artist
No,
reception.
it's okay. Totally understand.
I'm
Totally
excited that
understand.
I got an invite that came in the mail to Thelma, like a curator's first look sneak peek.
Yes,
Come in early,
yes, you
so-
did.
Really?
I felt very special
Wow.
about
Yes,
that.
you did.
Definitely, there's some. It's only members. I mean, yes, it's still juried, but it's just members, and there is some incredible. No, there's not some. There is a lot of incredible art. What I like about it is that it's such a broad selection, or what am I trying to say?
Well,
People with
multiple
almost no
mediums.
experience can enter. People with lots of experience can enter. You've got people who are stained glass artists that decide, no, I'm going to take up, watercolor, and it's really cool to see the talent that's there. 3D, 2D.
So it's a juried and judge show. Everybody
Yes.
is guaranteed. They can enter 2 to 3 pieces.
Yeah.
Submit. They're guaranteed one, which the judges will choose, but they may also choose one
can-
or all of the submissions. And then after the show is up, the judges come and physically go through it again and then give the award, tell us what awards, who got first, who got
Mm.
in different categories.
Yeah.
So
I
it's
think
pretty
there's
cool.
a best of show, and then first, second, third, and a couple honorable mentions in
In 2D and 3D.
and 3D. Yeah.
Mhm.
And in Chippewa Falls, they said that the first of all, the judges are blind with respect to each other. They're sent unlabeled or unidentifiable um, photos of all the entrants separately.
Right.
They score them separately and send them in, and then they have a different person there acting as a judge
Oh,
who only comes on the last day. That's kind of an interesting twist.
Hmm.
But
yeah, it's a blind jury for Cedarburg Artists
mm,
Guild too,
mm.
but obviously not blind when you judge. So
So,
people get
But it's
confused
great.
with the terminology of what's juried and what's.
Yeah.
There you
Mm.
go, Shannon. There's your
Mm.
next topic.
The terminology, yeah.
The confusing terminology of the art world.
closed now?
Yeah.
It's,
Right.
No, it's open to members. Open July 1st, closes July 31st.
At
is
midnight.
something I missed on the website? Is it on
Are
the
you a member of the Cedarburg Artists Guild?
No, you gotta
That's
be
what we're talking about.
Then you would have missed it. Yeah.
But you can be if you're in Ozaki or Washington
Mhm.
County.
No,
Yeah.
I'm too far south.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you though.
But come.
Yeah, do come. It's
nice.
great art. It's really great art.
And I know a number of artists in that area. I have had shows like years when I was doing shows years ago. And yeah, it's a great community for that kind of work. So that's great. Congratulations for being in a
Well,
hot,
I'm not in that one yet, but I did submit my pieces. So
Good.
Yeah.
Yay.
Be a very beautiful show. And it shows well at the cultural center too.
It
Yeah.
does. They do a great job.
I haven't been in the guild for like 6 years, but when I entered. That was one of my favorites to enter.
Mm.
Well, you need to become a member again, Martin.
Yeah, I don't have enough to do.
No.
That's why I was late for this meeting. We just got back from Green Bay.
Oh,
Oh goodness. Did you miss all the storms?
We on the way up, we drove through one, and
Mm.
then my sister sent me a text that I didn't see until like 5 o'clock. She says, "Oh, there's some severe storms moving to your area. Are you okay?" Well, we're not there. Yeah, there was the Green Bay Packers shareholders meeting at Lambeau Field, so
Oh,
kind of fun. So we went up there and listened to the president talk and a whole bunch of other people, and then we had dinner and just a nice day-long getaway.
Yeah, well, John.
It was-
Marty, you want to share your chat question with Shannon?
Oh, see,
Oh,
I
Can
told
you
you I
look
would
at
see
the chat,
chat.
Shannon, or no?
Whenever I share a screen, I never see them. Okay, let's see.
Here, did you get it? Okay.
Yeah. So usually about the artwork, not you. So I think, yeah, you missed that part in the beginning. Obviously, I'll post this afterwards, but I kind of drew the delineation between bio and artist statement because they get conflated a lot. Bio is really where it's about you. Artist statement should be about the work. Inevitably, you'll be woven in a little bit because there's no artwork without you, but mostly
Well,
artwork itself.
I was in the Beloit show
Mhm.
that's ending, I think this week or next, and they asked for an artist statement. So I submitted one about the piece, and nobody ever said anything. And they printed it, and it's on the label next to the piece of artwork, and it looks like it belongs there. But then when I walked around at the show, everybody else's is about them.
Which
I'm
is
going,
exactly why I did this talk, because like technically
Yeah.
they're the wrong
But
ones.
then I've had artist statements and I've done it about me, and I go to the show and it's all about the artwork, and I'm like, "Arr."
You did it right, Marty.
Yeah,
They were all wrong.
You're right.
Doesn't that feel good?
I can see your nose getting longer.
Oh my God. Well, thank you guys so much for all your good questions and for attending. And if anything pops up after this, if you go, write an artist statement or revise yours and you get confused about anything, reach out anytime.
this recorded?
Yes. Yep. Yep. I'll post it, the video as well as just the slides themselves in this same spot where you found the link.
And Shannon, can I ask an off-topic question when you're done recording?
Yeah. Okay, wait. Bye, everybody.